I am delighted with this spirited audience that we have this afternoon. Thank you for joining us to celebrate the establishment of the Carl F. Asseff MD, MBA, JD Professorship in Medical Humanities, and the appointment of Aaron Lamb as the inaugural chairholder as you see here. It's a special opportunity for me to welcome Dr. Lamb's family and Dr. Asseff to help us celebrate today. When I first heard that this was happening, I said, wait a minute, we've already done this before. I've heard of the Asseff chairs, but it turns out there's a story, and I'm going to take you through that. So, as this department knows well, because we had the recent induction of another chairholder, thank goodness. This is the third chair that we have for the department. So guys, if you want another one, we're going to have to help you raise one. So let's find our friends, those in the audience and elsewhere, but time to think ahead. As you know, endowed chairs and endowed professorships are so critically important, both to the school, to the departments, and to our faculty. They help us both compete for and retain top talent, provide a longitudinal support from the school for these activities and the creativity that they bring, and really empower both our research and our education programs. The concept of professorships, as I think I've mentioned before, dates a long way back. The oldest ones in the early Renaissance, I think, I didn't write this, but I found it. In others' writing, that King Henry VIII back in 1540 established the Regius Chair of Civil Law at Oxford University. The oldest in the United States is at Harvard, only because it's the oldest university. The Hollis Professorship in Mathematics and Natural Philosophy, now held at the Divinity School by a woman. I don't think they had that in mind when they started, but that's terrific. Just shows you that we can all change, thank goodness. It's held by Karen King in the Divinity School. The oldest chair at Case is the Leonard C. Hanna Chair Professorship, established in 1901 through the gift of his father, Howard Hanna. I think that's a real estate company now, isn't it? So it's a company, we understand that. And the next one was Henry Wilson Payne Professorship, and we've actually divided up the Payne Professorships. This one was established in anatomy in 1903, and then in 1906, there must have been something going on that we didn't know, the Hannah Payne Professorship. So there you have it. So that family and the connections have been critically important to us. And again, there have been a number of chairholders for that, and we look forward to somebody commenting a couple hundred years from now that those professorships are still ongoing. We have more than 125 endowed professorships at the school, and we value each and every one of them. And they are obviously reflect our being the beneficiary of the goodwill and good nature of our alumni and friends, both in the region and nationally and internationally. So we cherish each one of these, and I really think that they have incredible impact on our entire faculty across our 5 sites, where we have, I'll remind you, over 3,400 full-time faculty, which we have each one of them have an endowed professorship. Lindsay, keep working on it, so we have some ways to go. So today, let me tell you a bit more about Carl F. Asseff, MD, MBA, JD, and the professorship in medical humanities. His family's legacy to the university began in 1935 when his father, Peter, graduated from the Case Institute of Technology. Peter, back then, earned 2 additional degrees. He went on to have a major career, 50 years long, at Lubrizol. Along the way, he married Elsie Bayless, with whom he celebrated 50 years of marriage before he passed away in 2004. They have 3 children, Peter Jr., Carl, and Serena. That's my mother's name, thank you very much. So it was a common name then. It's coming back into vogue, I know. Carl earned his MD degree at Ohio State University in 1966, and then completed a fellowship in ophthalmology. Was decorated with 10 years in the U.S. Army and 20 years in the U.S. Navy. Rose to the rank of Navy captain. Served as an executive officer for a number of fleet hospitals and as a force surgeon for U.S. Navy Europe. He then managed along the way to get a law degree and an MBA while he was in the service. Served then, after he retired, as a chief of staff at St. Michael's Hospital and St. Vincent Charity Hospital. Some of you will know those names and know those institutions. And he shares expertise here in ophthalmology by teaching at Case Western Reserve, at the Cleveland Clinic, and at Cleveland State University. Dr. Asseff's father, Peter, was so inspired with his son's work in ophthalmology that in 1997 he established the Carl F. Asseff MD Professorship in Ophthalmology at Case Western Reserve University. And in turn, Carl and his mother, Elsie, established a professorship in Peter's honor at the Case School of Engineering in 1910. The family legacy here continued with his son, David, who graduated from the School of Medicine in 1997 and currently serves as an anesthesiologist at the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Navy. Currently, Dr. Asseff has served as an invaluable member, a longstanding, in our School of Medicine visiting committee, where he helps me set priorities. He is a quiet asset, usually asks 1 or 2 absolutely penetrating questions, and I have to think before I answer, so thank you for that many years of service and support for our school. So you've done an incredible job with your family to help support our institutions and the entire university, let alone the School of Medicine. And your service and dedication here and your education support for us, as well as advisory, have been exemplary. And now, of interest, he was interviewed in the recent past, and we pulled out a comment that he made that at schools of medicine, the science is there. That's the easy part. It's the art that's the hard part. And I think all of us think about that every day. So thank you for those comments. So in appreciation, I think I might call you up to say a few words. So come up and join us, and I think it deserves a hearty round of applause for that. And given that I mentioned 3 chairs from the Hanna family, I think we just found our equivalent. So thank you very much.
I thought I bought out of giving him a few things. But we're here today to celebrate the inaugural for Dr. Lamb. She's an outstanding person. I very, very much approved of what the university has done in recruiting her, getting her here, and getting this program going. Why are we dealing with the humanities and medicine? Because they're not there. They were there one time. Think of Saturday Evening Post with the artist showing the doctor sitting at the bedside of a child with his little black bag. And by the way, I still have my black bag from medical school. Eli Lilly gave it to me in 1964 before they prohibited gifts. They didn't trust us, but that's a different story. But that empathy is gone. What I see has happened, it used to be Carl Asseff and the patient. Nobody else interfered. Yes, you had Medicare overlookers and people waving swords and saying, we're going to get you for not coding it this way or that way, but that was my issue. Today, what do we have? We have the corporation employing 75% of all medical help, and The patient is not a patient of the doctor. He's the one who's doing the treating, but he's not a patient of the doctor. When you ask them, and I've seen this in my own practice, who's your doctor? Oh, Cleveland Clinic. And I would say, what brick? I mean, they took the personalization away. And that weakens the position of the doctors. And the doctors who are employed under contract are very fearful of the new contracts as they come out because they keep changing. I know at one time, and it may still be, that over at CCF, they renew their contracts yearly. That's a heck of a sword to live under. You don't know what's going to happen. So my purpose was to try to bring in the humanities back to medicine. We have it here. I've sponsored a professorship at Ohio State, and I've talked with people at Washington University. They're doing it through their anthropology route. But they're doing it, and what we need to do is get a real force, a standing force, not just onesies, twosies. Onesies, twosies get blown away because they just can't sustain. But when you have crowds, 20, 30, 40 conferences with the things coming out, that's what's important. And get the message to the people. Things are going to be different. Things are going to change. And that's why I got involved in this. And it's fun. It's fun to watch how we can do this. I wanted to know one thing. Does a doctor's lounge still exist? In my 50 years in medicine, we had them. We would stop in, have coffee, talk with our colleagues, get a little curbside consult. It wasn't a push, oh, I got to get more patients, 4 an hour, 5 an hour. We didn't have that. And therefore, you lost a exchange between the professions. Does that lead to 32% burnout for doctors and 45% burnout for nurses? Darn right it does. If you have to keep pushing that wheel up the hill, it's not going to work. So that was my purpose of doing what I did, and I see it grow, and I'm so pleased. Thank you.
So we have another chair for you with a bowl that says Carl F. Asseff, MD, MBA, JD, Professorship in Medical Humanities, August 8th, I think that's today, 2023. We're going to keep it up here so you don't have to draw it all the way down to your chair. We'll get it to you.
Well, it was interesting with Dr. Snyder, when she was here. I told her 3 chairs to serve a table. If you want to play cards, you get another chair. Bring your purse. But what she did is she had the seal of Case Western Reserve made into a table.
Yes.
A little
yes.
pewter table. I don't play cards with it.
So while I would really enjoy introducing Dr. Lamb, I actually have to follow protocol and have the chair of the department come forward, and that's Dr. Mark Lucio. As the department knows, and as Dr. Asseff will recognize, Dr. Lamb is a very special recipient for this professorship, and I look forward to exceptional things emanating from her position, but I really do need to introduce Dr. Lucio so he can introduce her. Dr. Lucio is the Susan E. Watson Professor and Chair of the Department of Bioethics at Case Western and Director of the Center for Biomedical Ethics at Metro Health Medical Center. He is currently Chair of the Council of Basic Science Chairs of the School of Medicine. Is that correct? Have you just taken over?
Retake it.
You didn't take it, but you will. And a member of the Human Subjects Review Board for the United States Environmental Protection Agency. I hope he keeps us all out of trouble. I will let you know, you may not know this, we were just about to receive an award from the EPA to study the consequence of East Palestine. So we'll help you be involved with us on that. Widely published in clinical bioethics, as Dr. Asseff discussed the issues and complexity of medical care. He's an expert in ethics consultation in organ transplantation and donation, and many other areas. In 2009, he was honored with the American Society of Bioethics and Humanities Distinguished Service Award for having helped to lead national projects that resulted in a number of major publications. And I certainly think we all appreciate there are many, many bioethic issues under current consideration. He has been PI or co-PI on a number of clinical bioethics projects with colleagues here at Kyoto University, University of Tokyo, University of Paris, universities in Spain. He's one of 2 of our faculty members who participated in 11 university multinational efforts around the Darwin Center and for the study of compassion. Most recently, he was a member of our institutional COVID-19 task force and co-authored a number of publications on the ethical issues around that pandemic, which thankfully I think is mostly past. And in the past year, and I hope this coming year, he has led a special task that I charged him with of organizing important medical conversations, which we term the Dean's Significant Conversation Program, which I hope you have participated in and will continue to participate in this fall. So, Dr. Lucio.
So thank you, Stan, and thank you, Carl, Dr. Asseff, Dr. Gerson. I'm really happy that we're doing this today for a bunch of reasons, which I'll unpack a bit here as I introduce Dr. Lamb as the inaugural Asseff Chair holder in Medical Humanities. The Department of Bioethics a number of years back started to get interested in medical humanities. Some of you will remember Richard Zellner, a heart transplant from Cleveland Clinic who was really close with Jim Young, and Richard loved medical humanities and tried to get us, more engaged and interested in it. And one of the stories with Richard is that, as he told me this, that Jim Young told him, you've been a hard-nosed, kind of tough lawyer all your life, and now you've got these extra years because of the heart transplant. You need to do something decent. So the decent was they searched and they decided, he's going to do a degree in bioethics. So he did our program, and then he got really into the medical humanities side. He's got it going a little, right? And then it grew more, of course, dramatically with Dr. Anderson and Dr. Sadowski and Medicine Society Culture back in 2016, the concentration, the center, the Zimmerman Chair this year. And it continues to grow. And, thanks to Carl, we can keep this going forward. Your generosity and really your vision. What I remember, Carl, is our conversation of Bob Evans in Independence. And the next day I was scheduled for a colonoscopy. So, I was just having black coffee. And we talked about the future of medicine and the need to put care back into healthcare and where things might go and why. And I firmly believe that the kinds of technologies that are emerging are technologies that won't be work creators, as most of our technology, much of it has been in healthcare up till now, but will be work reducers. And it will allow health professionals, caregivers, to actually be caregivers more and more and more. And I know we have to direct it that way. It won't just happen on its own, but I think we've got a shot of bringing the human side of medicine back and kind of going 180 from where we are, maybe 360 from the early Pythagorean priestly cult and first do no harm, right? And Carl, you're helping us do it, or you're helping us do it in medical education, medical humanities, bioethics education, and other impacts on health professionals in training at the undergraduate level, the graduate level. So thank you. What you wanted was excellence. The chair that you offered was conditioned on bringing somebody in who was absolutely superb in medical humanities, and we succeeded thanks to a lot of hard work by a lot of good people, but especially the hard work that Erin Lamb has put in over her career. Erin is a superb scholar, a superb educator. She is an excellent researcher, and she also cares about service. And in our department, what I like to say is we can't afford somebody who only focuses on one area, research or education or service. We need everybody to do a little bit of everything with some emphases, right, and priority, but a little bit of everything. Erin is that type of person, that type of scholar. Historically, she's worked on dementia, aging, ageism, disability, and she's made major impacts. She's really one of the founding people of the Health Humanities Consortium and the baccalaureate registry, basically, which keeps a comprehensive list of all baccalaureate level medical humanities programs in the country. And that's housed here now, thanks partly to Carl in endowing this chair and the ability to bring Erin in because of that. The work that she's done at CASE, bringing the National Health Humanities Consortium here last year, serving while at CASE as co-president of that consortium, has really been incredibly good. The work she's done as head of, we call it faculty lead for the humanities pathway, exceptional. The work she's done in building up our undergraduate minor program, reinvigorating in bioethics and medical humanities, reinvigorating our undergraduate society in bioethics and medical humanities, exceptional. And she's done it while landing here as a visiting associate professor about 2 months before the pandemic hits. So, ouch, that's tough. She wrote the book with Craig Klugman, one of our grads, our illustrious grads, on research methodology in medical humanities. And really, it would be hard to find a more central person in this area than Erin Lamb. And we're lucky to have her, and we're thankful. And Erin, you deserve this chair. We're honored to present it to you. Erin's remarks are up here, and she warned me not to take them.
Mark, thank you so much for that incredibly warm introduction. I wish that you could just give this whole talk. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. It is such an honor to be here, to claim a title that bears the name of the visionary Dr. Carl Asseff, and to see so many friends and colleagues in this audience. So I'm supposed to offer you my story today, and I'll try, but I believe that a life well lived, in a life well lived, your story is also the story of all those whom you have loved, whom you've learned from, whom you've leaned on, and whom you've led. I can't possibly give credit today to all of you who have co-authored my story, but my heart is full of gratitude. I do want to call out special thanks to my family, to my father, Jem Gentry, who can't be here with us today, and my mother, Martha Nielsen, who both taught me that teaching and mentoring are the very best parts of academia and worth investing yourself in. To my sister Robin, who is my person. And to my husband Julian and my child Ozzy, who are at the center of everything I do. Thank you. Okay, so if I were to try to summarize what I do, I think the word that I want is field building. In particular, building the fields of age studies and health humanities. And if you're not sure just what those fields are, I'm going to give you my take in the next few minutes. My story is about encountering the foundations laid by mentors and colleagues and friends, and working with them to help envision and build structures that make these fields accessible to others, particularly to students. These fields provide critical perspectives on the complex world around us. I believe these fields are world-changing by changing one provider, one patient, one policymaker, one person at a time that eventually becomes the deluge. But as this is meant to be a story, I'm going to start a little bit earlier. So, my mother and I spent most every Saturday through my junior high and high school years visiting two lovely women in a nursing home. So when I attended orientation at the University of Iowa and I flipped through the catalog and I saw an aging studies certificate, it caught my eye. I had not realized that you could study aging. I was going to be an English major, no question, and the certificate course seemed to be all courses in social work or nursing or anthropology, but I saw one class on literature and aging, and I thought, okay, maybe there's a place for me. I recall a guest lecture in a course on aging and leisure, and the lecturer briefly showed us images of the life course throughout Western history, from a Christ-centered medieval wheel of life to the stair-step image that was popular from the early modern period through the 19th century. And he then suggested that some gerontologists think that a tree would be better to represent how similar humans are early in life and how heterogeneous they grow through life's experiences. So he spent like that much time talking about that, but I left that class with my brain buzzing. What do these representations of the life course suggest about what we think it means to grow old? And how has this changed over history? How do our ideas about aging affect our actual experiences of aging? And where do these ideas come from? These were the kinds of questions that I wanted to think about, and that I got to think about when I finally took that literature and aging course. But once I decided to go to graduate school, I was stuck. Gerontology programs don't include the humanities. There wasn't any clear place to study what I wanted to study, which I now can name as age studies. Age studies is a field that explores how age works as an identity category, how our understanding of biological aging and what it means to be old is culturally constructed, and how global population aging is shaping all of this. In the absence of any program in age studies, I went to Duke University to join a PhD program in English, where they let me get away with very little literature, and I focused on the intersection between scientific and popular understandings of aging in the early 20th century. And while in graduate school, I was fortunate to connect with others who were already carving inroads to focus on age within organizations like the National Women's Studies Association or the Modern Language Association, and I was able to serve in leadership roles for these field-building groups. In 2013, I served as the founding co-chair of the North American Network in Aging Studies, an organization that a decade later continues to hold conferences and has a dedicated journal. And this means that even if there still aren't PhD programs in age studies, there are identifiable places where one can go to find age studies colleagues and opportunities and to publish. Plus, many folks in age studies have found a home in health humanities, as have I, which has been the part of my story that has ultimately led me here to Case Western Reserve. But right before Case, my story took me to Hiram College, a small liberal arts college in Northeast Ohio that was the first in the nation to offer a health humanities major in 1998. During my dissertation defense, when my advisor asked me what my dream job would be, I mentioned Hiram's posting, where they had wanted someone to teach courses like literature and aging and narrative bioethics. Landing at Hiram, I inherited the legacy of the Center for Literature and Medicine, which has been hosting summer seminars since the 1980s, bringing together scholars, artists, and healthcare professionals. I'd never actually heard of the field health humanities or medical humanities before going to Hiram, but when I learned about it, I realized that I was home. I'd like to describe health humanities as a large umbrella, one that includes people from the humanities, qualitative social sciences, fine and performing arts, and healthcare professionals. And I see this diverse group united by the kind of critical inquiry that's central to the humanities and a focus on social justice. For me personally, health humanities has meant that my interest in aging has expanded to further explore disability and death and dying and how we can best address ageism and ableism within healthcare and around the world. Hiram gave me the tools to help with the field building of health humanities, and I've been able to bring that work with me to Case Western Reserve. I joined the steering committee of the Health Humanities Consortium when it formed in 2015 and launched the Health Hum listserv, which is now sponsored by Case Western Reserve's Bioethics Department and reaches more than 1,100 people. I currently serve as co-president of the Health Humanities Consortium and have collaborated with amazing colleagues to help organize conferences and conduct field-defining research. I co-produce, as Mark mentioned, a regularly updated report published through our department that tracks growth in the field at the baccalaureate level in order to help new programs develop and to make a case to publishers that there is a market. I also, as he mentioned, co-edited the first book on methods for the field. And all of these efforts have been about building the field and opportunities for those who want to be a part of it. So if my advisor were to ask me today what my dream job would be, I would say, I'm in it. I came to Case Western Reserve in January of 2020, not the easiest time, with deep gratitude to Eileen Anderson, Mark Alicio, and all of my colleagues in the bioethics department. Joining this department has opened up so many exciting opportunities that I feel like the proverbial kid in a candy store. I've had the opportunity to branch out into new areas of research and the support to apply for grants. As one example, as a new faculty member with very little knowledge of medical education, Vice Dean of Medical Education Leah Logio supported my application for a grant from the AAMC's new FRAME initiative to use the humanities to improve death and dying education for medical students. More to the point, they let me and my co-PI mess with the medical curriculum. That's a big deal if you don't know that. And the standardized patient encounter that we created is still used with our second-year medical students. My position here at Case Western Reserve has also enabled me to collaborate with scholars at the Hastings Center on a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities looking at cultural narratives of dementia that includes scholars looking from the social sciences, the humanities, and the arts. This is the kind of research that I dreamed of doing when trying to figure out where I might go to graduate school. Without question, however, the very best opportunities here at Case Western Reserve have been to work with different levels of brilliant students. I'm looking at our PhD students here. In my position, I get to continue my passion for baccalaureate education by directing our undergraduate minor in bioethics and medical humanities, but I also get to serve as faculty lead for the humanities pathway, working with a group of medical students who are far and away the coolest medical students at Case Western Reserve. And in between, I teach and work with our master's students and PhD students. This is a pedagogical candy store. And I want to illustrate a couple confections that have made my time here so worthwhile, as well as to illustrate what the field of health humanities has to offer. So when the COVID pandemic hit, shortly after I started at Case Western Reserve, MedEd was scrambling to figure out what to do with all of our third and fourth year students who could suddenly no longer be in the hospitals. So there was a call for online electives. One of the things that health humanities as a field can do so beautifully is shape itself to the present moment. So along with Catherine Burke, who directs medical humanities for the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine, we created an online elective on pandemics in context. We used history, literature, and art to explore past pandemics and to have students analyze the emergence of COVID and their own experiences in those contexts. When George Floyd's murder and the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement occurred, we modified the course to enable students to reflect on these significant moments of social change and challenge. Health humanities is all about providing the tools to help people gain perspective on their situations and make meaning of their experiences so that they can live and act more deliberately. As one final example, our department joined with the Medical Humanities program at CCLCM to host the Health Humanities Consortium Conference this March. this March in our beautiful high-tech health education campus. Among the approximately 300 attendees, we had 24 undergraduate, graduate, and medical students who presented, and additional students who helped to run the technology for this hybrid conference. I featured on this slide just a few of the presentations from our medical students, but you can see from the richness of their titles how these students are using the humanities to rethink medical education, to push for equity, and to analyze the pressing issues of our moment. It was gratifying to watch these students be inspired by the cutting-edge research and to put their own ideas into conversation. I loved seeing the medical students recognize that there can be professional, career-advancing opportunities in which they can meld the things that they're passionate about with their chosen profession. And I think that description, mixing what you're passionate about with your chosen profession, describes the path I've taken, but it's also one reason that I am so honored to bear a chair named after Dr. Carl Asseff. And every conversation I've had with Dr. A, his passion for caring for patients comes through so clearly, as does his extraordinary vision. He's someone who sees problems and creates new roads to deal with them. As essential to the perspective of health humanities, he recognizes that what happens between physicians and patients, that central moment of care, healing, and possibility, is shaped both by the resolve and insights of the physician, but also by the structures of healthcare. How do you deal with those large structures? Well, for Dr. A, the answer was to pursue a JD and an MBA and to gain the knowledge and credentials to speak and be effective across broader spheres of medicine. Not something everyone could do. But Dr. A is a doer. Through his many years serving in the Navy, then through his private practice, he has always been out there, engaging with others, actively improving the lives of his patients. This chair is a testimony to Dr. A's passion for cultivating future physicians who will share his resiliency while keeping dedication to their patients at the core of their practice. It also represents the visionary recognition that the medical humanities are uniquely suited to help medical students nurture their skills. Eileen Anderson posted about the creation of this chair on the Health Hum listserv. The very first respondent was physician and literary scholar Rita Sharon, originator of the field of narrative medicine, who described the creation of this chair as a milestone for our field to court. Rita was shortly followed by anesthesiologist and gifted poet Audrey Schaefer, who wrote, "Kudos to Case Western for the vision to create this endowed professorship in medical humanities. A terrific milestone for your program and health humanities at large." And I share these comments to show just how groundbreaking, dare I say field building, are Dr. A's generosity and vision. I am so deeply honored to be the recipient of that generosity and to help enact that vision. Thank you.
So Erin has been through this, and so she knows she can't leave the stage. She's got to sit down in the chair. So I'm going to let her do it. And if you remember at the beginning of her remarks, she said, Mark, I wish you could continue on and give this presentation. And, Mark, you could have presented it, but you couldn't have written it. So it's really nice to be able to hear an English major come into medicine. And so congratulations. We are going to have you sit in the chair. So. It really is special to have our donor with us to celebrate jointly with he and with Erin and her family and with the entire department. It's very special, as I mentioned earlier. There's nothing of greater pride for a dean than to bestow an endowed chair on a recipient and know that for decades to come it will be well served and that you'll maintain a relationship with the family. So congratulations. Well done.